Hello, dear participant. Welcome to this first e-masterclass. We are very happy to have you. So just for you not to be surprised, we are going to run a few videos. There will be a short introduction, and we will start with your what you came here for, which is basically the live fire chat between Monica Kerret and Clarisse Iribagiza. Thank you for your patience. So welcome back to this e-masterclass. Now we will be sharing with you a few housekeeping rules, and then we will move on to the introduction of eTrade for Women program and masterclass as well. So for those of you who may not be familiar with WebEx, we really appreciate for you to keep your microphone closed, so mute. One moment. Here are basically the basic features of these WebEx tools. If you want to see the participants, you can over this space, which is right at the bottom center of your screen. You will not need to start videos of sharing, so we are not going to spend time on that. And once you want to leave the event, which I hope is not going to happen soon, you simply have to click on this red button. Feel free to, of course, use the chat option to ask your questions. I will be monitoring them closely, as well as our speakers, and we will make sure to keep this interactive for you to feel fully engaged and enjoy the event to the fullest. All right. All good. So welcome again to this first eTrade for Women Masterclass. During this week, we will have the opportunity to work closely with women entrepreneurs from all over the East African region, women from Ethiopia, Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, and Tanzania. But before telling you more about the masterclass and what we are going to do, as it was told in the video, eTrade for Women aims at empowering women digital entrepreneurs from developing countries to become more credible contributors, wealth creators, and contributors for an inclusive development in their countries and regions. One way we want to achieve that goal is through masterclasses such as this one. The first one that was organized was last year in Skopje, North Macedonia. And after that, the first African masterclass was held in Abidjan last February for women from Francophone Africa. So this e-masterclass, which is the first one organized online, obviously because of the current context, is the first digital one and is targeting women from East Africa, the countries I just listed below. So during this week, they will have opportunities to learn and to grow thanks to the outstanding speakers that we are going to work with. They will have an opportunity to connect to each other because community is one of the key pillars of the eTrade for Women initiative. They will also get an opportunity to engage and get exposed to policymakers in order to have more understanding on how policymaking could possibly positively impact their businesses and their ecosystem, and how them as well could possibly positively impact the policy making process and make it more inclusive. And last but not least, this masterclass will also give them an opportunity to be inspired. At eTrade for Women, we truly believe in the power of representation, and we really believe that if women have more opportunity to be exposed and learn from women just like them, that they can relate to, that have already achieved outstanding things in the digital economy, it will give them an opportunity and the drive to achieve that as well. And that is basically the premise of our upcoming session that will start the next 5 minutes with Clarisse Iribagiza, who is our eTrade for Women Advocate for Anglophone Africa, and also the founder and CEO of Hehe Labs. This fireside chat will be hosted by Mrs. Monica Kerrets-Makau, PhD, who is the Academic Director for Africa and Professional Practice at Thunderbird School of Global Management, Africa Hub. So we are very pleased to have you now, and in a little bit less than 5 minutes, we will be able to start the fireside chat with Monica and Clarisse. You will see the slide now. And thank you for your time.
All right, welcome everybody. If you can hear me, we'll be starting shortly. I'll give you a chance, if you have, as the attendees, to please say something about who you are and where you're logging in from. We can see quite a lot of people have registered, including the particular class. Just to highlight that the Masterclass is going to be a closed class and will not be public. We have 2 public events at this time and on Friday. So just so that you don't get confused, we actually have a class that is closed to the women that will start after this. So welcome for everybody who's joined in. Please feel free to say something about yourself, who you are, and where you're logging in from onto the chat session. I'm going to share Clarisse, and Clarisse, if you're there, I'm going to ask you to share your screen, or just so that people can see your face for a minute or 2 before we start, and you might be free to close the screen off after. But if you're there, I'd like you to put on your image. So welcome, Clarisse, and you're all the way from Rwanda. This is our first e-class, masterclass on trade, and it's great to have you on board. So I think we start with introducing yourself and your company, so that the women out there can hear who is Clarisse and what is this company all about.
Great. Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you, everyone, for having me. It's a pleasure and honor for me to be here. I'm always excited to be a part of the amazing things that women are doing and want to achieve. As you know, they explore their passions, try to tap into their fullest potential and do something great for the world. So just a little bit of a background. Like Monica said, my name is Clarisse Iribagiza, and CEO of DMM Hehe. We're a technology company based out of Kigali, Rwanda, founded 10 years ago. So I've been at this for a while, since I was 22.
Clarisse, you've got to tell people, when you say you're a technology company, come on, what is that?
Sure, I'm going to jump straight into the details in a second.
Okay.
So yeah, I was just saying I've been at this since I was 22. And why did I get started? I will start with a bit of a background story, maybe. When I was 17 in an economics class, and my economics teacher mentioned that it was impossible to create a perfect market. And I don't know if I was paying attention or not, but the minute I heard the word impossible, that just sparked my curiosity up until this day. So a perfect market is one where consumers know everything about the goods and products that are out there, and there's pretty much perfect knowledge about what products and services one can access. And I just wondered, why is it impossible to do that? And I kept probing at this question. And when I was at the university about 10 years ago, like I mentioned, doing computer engineering, I remember thinking technology is an opportunity. It's a platform where you can connect people to information, and they'll be able to know all these things. So you can finally create a perfect market with the power of information technology. And I remember for me, that's where everything just sort of came together. I was in this incubation program that was run by MIT. And out of these 6 weeks of an incubation program, similar to what you guys are going to be doing in this masterclass, I was able to put all my ideas together and created this business where I felt like we could really create that market where businesses are able to access or to connect their audiences much more efficiently. So today, what are we doing as Hehe? We are connecting businesses to their end consumers. We are in the business of supply chain digitization and e-commerce. This is where e-commerce comes in, helping businesses get online, have those digital tools to be able to connect directly to consumers.
All right,
so
so
in a nutshell,
I'm gonna stop you 1 minute, and I'm gonna ask you to go slowly for all of us in the room.
Okay.
You're connecting women online. How are you doing that? So tell us about the business. How does this business work?
So like I mentioned, when we talk about digitizing supply chains, this is from, the factory, from that first smell, from the farm, so the supply chains that we focus on are the agriculture supply chain and the consumer goods supply chain. So if you're a business, you're manufacturing something or you're selling some goods and you want to be able to reach people much more efficiently instead of having to have only a physical store, what we do is come and help you digitize your inventory. First of all, we help you get your products online. You get a website, which we call a storefront. We power you with digital payment solutions so people can use mobile money, M-Pesa, whatever it is to pay for their goods online. So we give you the ability to do that, as well as the delivery, the last mile delivery process, where we connect you to a driver who is ready to ship your goods from your store, from your factory, from your farm, whatever it is, and deliver it to the end consumer. That's how we're getting businesses online.
You know what's interesting? You've been doing this for 10 years. There's a lot of women out there that are only beginning to think, oh my goodness me, I need to be online. And COVID-19, of course, as you know, has completely altered our thought process on the market and completely altered our thought process on what business looks like. And I think you've been there for this long. So we're going to start, together with the team that's all listening on a journey, on a conversation around entrepreneurship, around understanding how do we digitize ourselves, how do we as women become very competent with online technology to reach different markets, and how do we do this beyond a Facebook page, an Instagram page, what else, a Twitter handle page, and a WhatsApp page that we normally use to be able to sort of market ourselves. And I'm not saying that these are not great, they're actually great, but how do we move beyond that? So Clarisse, thank you for sharing your company. So I'm going to start by probably asking you to start with the journey from how did you know what skill sets you needed to have for this company? Did you have the skill sets? And if not, and there are women listening out there, what skill sets would they need?
Great, thank you, Monica. So the answer to that is no, I didn't have the whole picture getting started. What I had was an idea, or what you'd call a vision, something I wanted to accomplish. I did have some of the basics. For example, I was, doing computer engineering at a university, and the University of Rwanda here, and it gave me an idea. It gave me sort of the basics of what I thought were the skills that I needed. But like you were mentioning, some of the platforms that exist today, whether it's Facebook or WhatsApp, some of these things are already tools that people can use. And if you have, if you're digitally literate, you're ready to get started. Like that's the first point that I'll make. This is not rocket science.
Okay.
It's not rocket science. If you know how to use your mobile phone and you can type in something, you're ready to get started. If you can use a computer, you can get started. If you know how to use the internet, that's a plus. And you're pretty much able to get started with those basics.
Okay,
but beyond that,
I would like you to go and drill down on the question of basics and skill sets and really tell the women, if I'm out there and my background is marketing, or my background was accounting, or my background was finance, what skill sets do you feel are important to starting an enterprise or moving my business from face-to-face to online? What skill sets do you feel, and given your experience over the past 10 years, what would you say to the women out there?
First of all, I'd like to commend the women that have signed up for the masterclass, because the rate at which technology is advancing is, pretty much at the speed of light. And the skill set that I had 10 years ago are not that relevant today, I'll be honest with you. So first of all, you have to continuously be educating yourselves. Don't assume that one masterclass is going to be enough. You have to constantly be growing and learning, and there's a lot of tools out there to help you. But like I said, digital literacy is the first thing that you need to be able to have. Secondly, just understanding how to use these online tools and platforms. There's lots of them out there. There's the stuff that we're doing for businesses here, helping them get online, the platforms that Monica mentioned. Learn about these platforms, be well versed with them, and choose what tool works best for your context. So I would say these are the most important things that one needs to be able to know. But also digital marketing. So just because you're in the marketing space, not necessarily technology, it doesn't mean that you don't have what it takes to thrive online. It's really important that you take that skill set that you have offline, that connection that you have, that thing that your customers already enjoy from your offline business and bring that online. So tell your story, share what it is that you're doing, use digital marketing tools and techniques to be able to get the word out there. So it's one thing to get your products online, to get your business online, but also be proactive in how people get to find out about you.
Okay, so you've raised the question about the fact, and if all the women are listening there, and I'm assuming you're putting some comments on your chat, but the key thing here is that it's possible for us to move online. There's nothing difficult. And that the skills of online and learning how we transfer the skills of technology, and we can all become really good with technology. For the women watching this, I have put a list of questions for you just to think for yourselves in your companies in relation to COVID-19 and what it's meaning for your companies. What skill sets do you feel you need to acquire? I'd like you to think and pause for yourself, listening in, and ask yourself, what skill sets do I have now as in my company? And what skill sets do I not have? Or what skill sets reside in my company? And so to Clarisse, on that question of skill sets residing, we asked about skill sets in relation to yourself. What skill sets did you feel you needed to bring to your team? What were you looking for in your team as you were building your team?
So, for us as a business, we're like I said, we're really primarily a technology company, and what we do is help businesses to get online. So we're not just an online retailer. We are powering the online retailers. So first of all, the skill set, I think the most important thing was an attitude of continuous growth. That's something that we had to bring to our team, and we have an academy in our organization just dedicated to that. Constantly growing and learning and just staying up to date with the trends in technology. And I keep coming back to that because I don't want these women to attend one masterclass and think they have everything that they need, and then when something changes tomorrow, they feel like the masterclass wasn't worth it. The fact that you've signed up for this class is really critical. Keep doing that, keep growing and learning, because there's lots of opportunities out there and lots of change that's happening. So that's
okay. So
yes.
if a woman out there was thinking about, you work with several companies of women that are going online, what would you tell, and what skill sets would you be telling the women, and what do you want them to see? What do you want them to have?
So like I said, digital marketing is one thing that's really important for them to learn how to really put your products online and make them appealing, just like you would, all the things that you do for your offline store, how you organize your products online, the product information that you give your customer, how much you try to understand about your product and your customer as well. So all this is bundled up in what I would call digital marketing. Just learn as much as possible around that. Secondly, how do you manage, inventory online? You're probably going to keep your offline store as well. So for those who have both an online and offline store, how do you manage inventory? There's a lot around that. How do you communicate to your customer about what you have in your store? And how do you describe products? How do you? I've seen some businesses where, for example, they're selling clothes. How do you make sure that people know how to try on the clothes?
Monica, you are muted. It seems like we have a slight internet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. So Condense, we're going to summarize any of the key things so far in relation to skill sets or anything you're seeing on the chat.
For the moment, people on the chat are a little bit shy, but we encourage them to keep sharing their experiences.
Okay. All right, so Clarisse, let's move to the area and maybe start with your passion. How do you grow a passion as a woman, and what do you do for women entrepreneurship and growing your passion?
Clarisse, if there's a connection issue, maybe it's better to turn off the camera so that we can at least hear you. Thank you.
Sorry, everybody, if you're listening in, we, as usual, any technology will always have an issue. We wait and see if Clarisse is able to connect in from Rwanda. In the interim, if you're listening in, Clarisse, let us know if you're there. And the team in Geneva, if you could just check out if Clarisse is having any challenges. So to the women out there, I'm going to keep sharing my screen and ask you a number of questions so that we're all together. And if Clarisse is back on, then I will allow her to continue. Clarisse, let us know when you're there. I have listed a set of questions here. And maybe the first question to ask you is, how many of you are reaching and what are you doing beyond the face-to-face at this time? And how are you handling anything beyond face-to-face? And if you could share on the chat what you're doing in relation to how you're dealing with beyond face-to-face, especially with COVID-19, and how your business is reacting to COVID-19 in light of the lack of face-to-face. What are you doing as women? Feel free to chat in onto the chat. The chat is right below you on your screen set, and you can just type in and say what you're doing in relation to face-to-face as we wait for Clarisse to connect with us. The Untitled team, can you let me know if they're back on?
Clarisse, Clarisse, I can see you again. If there's connection issue, please turn off the camera because maybe there's low bandwidth issues. So if we lose you, maybe turn off the camera and keep the microphone open. But I think Clarisse is back, Monica.
Excellent. All right, so Clarisse, let's go on. And for the women listening, I think you know what technology means. We don't get fuzzled, we keep with it. All right, so Clarisse, tell us, how does a woman grow their passion? And what have you done yourself to grow your passion in your business?
Oh, okay, that's a tough one. But if I'm to speak from my own personal experience, I will say that, first of all, just constantly asking myself, why am I doing what I'm doing? I think somebody called it the 5 whys, just always digging deeper to the core of why you're doing what you're doing. So you really understand what's driving you, what's motivating you. And, always having, points along your journey, whether it's, an annual planning process or a quarterly planning process, time you take with, your maybe people that mentor you along the journey, just to always see, are you still on track? Are you still pointing to this, true north that is the reason as to why you got started? But even when you can't fully answer that why, always being okay with being in that space where you're really trying to figure things out. And if you need to pivot and you need to change what you're currently doing, just being honest with yourself if things are not working. But just to answer your question, Monica, it's just being honest with yourself and constantly probing that why and getting deeper to the issue of why am I in this space? Am I really passionate about this? When the next storm comes, will I be okay weathering it because I know why I'm doing what I'm doing? And passion is really critical. I hear people saying passion is overrated. But in my experience, it's not been overrated because it's that vision and that drive and that passion that has kept me going when things were really difficult. So that would be my response to that.
I love exactly what you just said. It's asking deeper questions. So for the women listening out, the why question comes in many forms. Why not? Because most times we're told we can't. So why not? Why can't we not? And why not? How come? What if? And keep asking those questions. And I like the second thing that Clarisse has said, and that is being comfortable to be in the space of asking, being okay to be in that space. Many times as women, many times we want to find answers. And I think that's part of, I don't know whether it's the best thing about women and also the curse about women, but we always want to find an answer. And so the best part about not knowing an answer, but being comfortable with the space of the why is an excellent thing. To be comfortable in the space of how can my business continue improving and how do I continue improving? I don't think passion is overrated. I think it's the one thing that's needed for us to grow. So Clarisse, I'm really glad that you highlight it is never going to be overrated. To the women out there, as you're asking, the next question I want to ask Clarisse is looking at yourself and how do women like yourselves gain access to peer networks? And how do you find other women who are doing business? And how do you surround yourself with the right people? So Clarisse, you start by sharing with us what you have done as a woman CEO and as a woman founder and as a woman as well. And I'm being very particular about highlighting the word woman here. And what have you done to surround yourself with a network of peers within your field or within the space of founding a business?
Yeah, thank you so much, Monica. That's such a critical question. And I was actually responding to a similar question just yesterday with a group of young entrepreneurs. One of the hardest things for me when I got started was finding women that I could talk to, that I could relate with, that could help mentor me along this journey. Mostly because in the technology space, it was mostly male dominated. So that was a huge, huge challenge for me. And I remember, as much as I had so many mentors around me, I really longed to have female mentors who could at least relate to me in a much more, in a much better way than most men could. And I wasn't trying to be the next, male CEO. I'm a woman, and that's the truth. And there's experiences that I have that are very specific to our gender. So I will say that one of the things that I was blessed with, first of all, was having a mother who was an entrepreneur and really just worked with me on this journey. She came up with the name of the company. That's how much of a mentor she was.
Before you go on, could you tell us what that name means? Because DMM hair just sounds like, I don't know if the other women are like me, but I was wondering, DMM hair, who comes up with that name? What does that mean?
So the company, when we started out, we were called Hehe, and Hehe means where in Kinyarwanda. And like I said, what we're trying to do was, make sure that for a business or somebody offering a service, the fact that you are not physically in the same space as someone, that was not a limitation to you. Like you could be anywhere and everywhere, pretty much omnipresent because of technology. So
Excellent analogy.
Thank you. So that's where the name came from. So as I was describing this idea to my mother, who really was a bouncing board for ideas for me right from the start, she was like, okay, why don't you just call it Hehe? We're speaking in our native language, Kinyarwanda. And she's like, oh, so people are just trying to find things, so just call it Hehe. And I was like, oh, Mom, that makes so much sense. So just having mentors like that, and I've continued to hunt down female mentors, especially now as a mother, because that was a whole new chapter for me. Realizing that, okay, there's trying to run a business, but then now you have children, you have to balance all these things, you have to make the most of all of them. And I will say that I do have some good female mentors, but they're not that many, because a lot of them, it seems like they have to choose between staying in the work environment or taking care of their families. And this is really tough. But I would say, again, with technology, this is the beauty of it. 60% of the businesses that we've digitized are women owned. And guess what? These are women starting businesses from a room in their house or their backyard, being able to still take care of their families, continue doing that thing that they're passionate about, and, you have the financial resources as well to take care of their children, their families. So this for me is also an amazing opportunity. I'm just so excited to be in the technology space in a time like this, because I'm doing things that my mother would have only dreamed of.
Oh, this is excellent. And you talked about finding women, and we're talking about finding women networks and, getting women networks. My trick to women, and I always say, there are women like us around all over, and there are women like you. I think the question is to step out of the box and step out of the triangle and say, I'm going to look for them. I'm going to put it out there that I'm a woman entrepreneur and I want to meet other women entrepreneurs. And it's important as women. I think we know the famous words, I forget her name, who said, you must sit at the table as women. And so it's important for us as women to be able to shout out there and say, I am here, where are you, and who is there? And for all those joining in, we're taking in your email addresses, and we'll make sure we connect you to several women. And the role of eTrade for women is really to do that, and to make sure that women are connected across each other, especially women entrepreneurs. So thanks for that, Candice. Candice, I'm going to move to the question of markets. And I think, just thinking about the market and how to grow your market. And I think maybe to the question to the women out there, how can women grow their market? And what have you seen are the best ways for women entrepreneurs to grow their markets?
Monica, I think you already spoke to it, actually.
Is that the network question? Go on.
It's that proactiveness.
Okay.
Just, making sure that they do get that seat at the table.
Okay.
And sorry.
Go on.
Yeah, and I think somebody even once mentioned that, you know, if you don't have a seat at the table, you know, just make your own table or something like that. But I would say just being proactive in saying, okay, here I am, what opportunities are out there, what platforms are out there, and just constantly being on the lookout for ways to grow your network. You know, a network is not...
Excellent. Go on, sorry, I
No,
lost you.
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
All right. I think the big question that we have for women entrepreneurs, and I thank you that you say that women need to put themselves out there. But what if I have no money, and where do I start, and how do I find a funding mechanism to grow my business? Could you share with us your experience?
Yes, that one I'll straight up say you have to be creative and use what is around you. And for me, what I had around me was, first of all, an enabling environment in terms of trying to promote women and young people to start businesses. I mean, for Rwanda, I literally had $20 and walked into the Rwanda Development Board and opened my business. So a lot of barriers had been removed for me. And I would say, in a sense, I've been lucky in that way. And I know it's not the same for every woman that's listening, but it's using what you have around you. It could be family members that can support you. It could be, some kind of women's network out there that's really out there to support women. But you have to use what you have around you, and you have to get creative about this. I mean, I also got onto a reality TV show. You know, there was an opportunity to win 50,000 US dollars if you participated in this reality TV show. And I remember I actually, had to rush through an exam, get out of my exam and run to the audition for this TV show. So I pretty much, gave everything that I had. And after I got into this reality TV show, I was able to get through the 13 weeks and win. And I got some funding that really just moved our company to the next level as well. So put yourself out there, try out a lot of things. And I'll tell you, for every opportunity that I got probably about 100 rejections. So do not even be afraid of the rejections. Just keep trying and doing your best.
Oh, I love what you've just said. Put yourself out there. Do not be afraid of 100 rejections. I wonder how many women have had 100 rejections before they give up, or before they say, no, I can't, or before they say it's not possible. I think that word should be used and quoted over and over. Just keep doing it over and over. And I really like the fact that you said, you even looked for funding mechanisms, even in reality TV shows. So it just goes to show there's no impossible. And I think that's an amazing thing. I want to move to a second question, or a third question that really affects women entrepreneurs, and wondering what you'd have to say about it. What if I start a company and I realize that I am hindering it from growing? How can women grow the company beyond the founder syndrome? How can they allow it to grow? And how can they ensure they have the team that allows them to grow? Many times as women, we want to mother the company until we forget that the company needs to run on its own feet. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, very good question. And I'm glad you used the word mother the company, because this is something that I learned really on from just watching my mother mothering all her businesses. And, just being open to working with others is a critical skill that one needs, and structuring the right kind of relationships to make sure that this works out. And I think another thing that I was lucky to have, and I keep talking about, was I got to play a lot of team sports growing up. And that helped me learn to, sort of collaborate and understand that people bring different things onto the team that we all need. In particular, I played volleyball, and there were people that were great, that were really tall and could spike. And then there were those that were in the backcourt, like me, who were short and were just solid and could receive even the hardest of spikes just to protect the entire team. And that was something that really opened my mind to being able to understand that people have different gifts and talents, and you need that for your team to thrive. And being open to that, but not just naive. Don't be naive about who you work with, who you collaborate with. Get the right legal framework for how you work with people. Sometimes we tend to be too trusting also as women. And just because somebody says all the right things and we think we click, maybe they're a good friend, this can destroy your business as well. So just being pragmatic about everything, if you need a lawyer to come in and help you, or, you need to go online and look at a legal contract and just get that signed with whoever you want to work with, but you need to be able to work with others. That's really critical. But find the right people. And this is why networking is also great, because it doesn't limit you to who you know. You can get new acquaintances, and this could be new opportunities, new business partners. Who knows? But put yourself out there and meet new people.
I like what you've just said about the question about making sure you put the right social contracts in place. So if you need a legal framework, then get the legal framework. I think the challenge we have as women sometimes is we can't be too trusting. And someone once told me, because I trust you, that's why we sign our documents. And so let us, and ensuring that our legal processes in the company are very secure, and that we are able to partner with the right people. Excellent feedback on that issue. I'm going to go to a question that affects us as women, and the question about constraints. What would you say were your top 3 constraints as a woman? What were your challenges, your top 3 as a woman entrepreneur? And then tell us how you handled those top 3.
Yeah, so I started out young, and I would say that for me, I had a huge knowledge gap. I had a huge knowledge gap in, how do you run a business? How do you run a technology business at that? There are a lot of things that I had to learn. So that was one of the number one constraints that I encountered. But how I dealt with that was I pretty much attended every class that was out there. Whatever training program, whatever thing I could get into, I got into it and was able to learn a lot, and it helped. I didn't have to repeat mistakes of others just because I was able to learn a lot from this journey. And then the second constraint that I would say for me that I had to encounter beyond the knowledge gap was really how to balance everything as a young mother, young family, and how to keep things going. Because I started young, I was able to do a lot of things, had a lot of energy, but the moment that I had children, that all changed. I really had to, I remember my business was going through an acquisition just when I had my first child. And I remember flying all the way to Japan with a 7-week-old baby. And this was I cannot describe how difficult that was for me to do. And just being able to understand that and have a support system around me and know that I could get people to help me on this journey was also really critical. And not feel guilty for being human, for wanting to have, a holistic life in what I believe is a holistic life from my own personal opinion. And just not feeling guilty about these things was so critical for me. Those were the I would say those are the 2 biggest challenges that I encountered starting out. There are quite a number. There are many others, just, overcoming my own weaknesses, being shy or, being so introverted and all those other things. But those just are menial when you compare them to the things I just mentioned.
Excellent for sharing your experiences on that. And I can see some chat questions. Candace, if you're there, could you summarize some of the chat questions for us or the comments?
Yes, sure. So there are a few people like Henriette that can relate to Clarisse's relationship with the mother at the beginning of the business. However, a few people would like to know what are the best online platforms to organize a company to advertise a company website. We're introducing it for the first time. And also would like to know more about what Clarisse, people like Henriette would like to know what Clarisse consider her biggest achievement, and also, yeah, these are the two main questions I would say. The other
so
one.
Clarisse, you've had the questions. What are your 2 biggest achievements? Maybe we start with the achievements and we go backwards to the other questions if you've got them with you. But Clarisse, share with us, what were your 2 biggest achievements?
Oh, sorry, could you please share the first question as well, just so I can think through that?
Okay.
From future now, what is the best online platform to advertise a company website when introducing it for the
that's a good question.
Okay, great. So achievements, I would say that for me, one that I always come back to is we started a movement. Being young, being in technology, being a woman, it really just inspired a lot of people to step out. And we didn't start, personally, I wasn't even thinking about all these things when I got started. I was just chasing a dream. And all of a sudden I realized that encouraged other people to chase their own dreams. So we did a lot of things in encouraging young women to step out, try out technology, do science, technology, engineering, math in their high schools, in their universities, start businesses. Just that movement that we started, I think is something that I'm absolutely proud of. And then, just demystifying technology for a lot of people. On the continent, in Rwanda, there were a lot of people who thought this was so complex. Like, what is software? And just, inspiring a lot of people to step out, first of all, and pursue their dreams, but also enter a field that, was considered too difficult. Maybe you had to go to, some top-notch university somewhere in Europe and or the US and be able to, get started in this space. That for me was a huge accomplishment. And creating jobs in our business. That's something that I look at every day, and I'm always reminded, this is a mother that has children that, they have to feed at home, Clarisse, and this is a platform that they have because you took a chance. This is someone's daughter, this is someone's son, and they can achieve their dream through this platform that you've created. For me, that inspires me so much. So those are the two things I would talk about. And then in terms of the best platform to advertise, you really have to contextualize. You need to know your market. But really low-hanging fruits are social media. Very low-hanging fruits are social media platforms. I really love WhatsApp. If you have the ability to write a good message or come up with a flyer and share it in your networks. But don't bombard people. Also, you have to be sensitive. Don't spam anyone. But, starting with those social media networks, but also working to really build your audience, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, being really well versed with that is a good opportunity for you to get the word out about what you're doing.
Excellent. I mean, those are very, Candace, there was a question. I think there's somebody called Jennifer that has shared something on the chat. Could you read that out for everybody?
Actually, I have an interesting question from Wallace Cheng. Would like to know what will be 3 suggestions from government in Africa to support e-commerce, and what are the main barriers?
Excellent. Candace, do you want to highlight that?
You mean me, Clarisse?
Yes, Clarisse, yes.
Okay, so one of the things that I say, and we're working with the government here in Rwanda to do, is help build that trust between consumers and e-commerce entrepreneurs or vendors. That was a huge challenge when we got started, because there's a lot of online fraud, and somebody has to use, put in their financial information, if it's a card or mobile money. So really building that trust and just highlighting or putting a seal on which website people can use, and also just educating the masses more and more about these tools and how they can really leverage them. So the first is building trust. Second is educating. The government can really invest in consumer education. But also the third is also investing in these businesses to be able to learn how best to use these tools. A lot of businesses that we work with, we do take time to incubate them, to educate them, to train them, because we don't want them to be so dependent on a third party, and when their website is down, there's nothing they can do about it. We try to equip them as much as possible on how to use these digital tools. So those are the 3 things I would say would be great for the government to invest in: building trust between consumers and vendors, and then equipping both businesses and consumers in how to use these platforms.
And I think maybe excellent, Clarisse. Those 3 are really amazing. Did you want to add one more?
Sorry, I think there was another question. I'm not sure if.
All right, just before you go to the question on building trust and between the consumer and the vendor and equipping businesses, for the women out there, I think the other thing that we want to encourage our governments to do in that same area is to ensure that the learning environments are also within technology. I think our challenge today has been, and Clarisse will tell you, is that our learning environments separate technology. We do marketing outside technology. We sort of think technology is something to be done separately from marketing, or we do finance without technology. And so really rethinking how we learn and the tool sets that we learn. There's another question that Candace had for Clarisse.
Yes, so Alan Kendunga asked, what's your advice to people whose businesses are dependent on the growth and successes of other businesses, especially during this pandemic? Can imagine for example, someone whose business was connected to, I don't know, like the flights or hotel or those industries that are heavily impacted by the COVID. What would you suggest as a way to bounce back or be resilient or keep growing?
I will say, first of all, strategy 101 is making sure that your business does not depend wholly on one entity or just one source of revenue. That's really critical for your business, to diversify, to always make sure that there's multiple sources of revenue. That's the first thing I would recommend that you do. But with COVID-19, there are a lot of things that we could not foresee, and obviously businesses have been impacted. So looking for ways to pivot, and we've also done this as Hey, just looking for a problem. So I'll give a very practical example. We had an online grocery business that we were running, and when COVID happened, we could not, because they closed off borders, we could not access goods from the farm. So what happened is prices went up, and the government had to put a price cap. And what was happening for us is we were literally paying for consumers to be able to access these goods. We were pretty much making a loss. So what have we done now? We've become much more intentional about connecting to that first mile, to that farmer, and being able to build a resilient supply chain from the farm, and not depending on a middleman, 2-3 vendors in between to access those goods. And what we've also done is help the other grocery retailers that we work with to connect them to these farmers. So it's been a pivot for us. So you have to be creative and say, okay, what's really at the root of the problem? What's the impact of COVID overall on the economy? And just getting to the root of all these things, and then being creative like you are in creating your first business, in creating a solution for the problem that you've identified from asking yourself that question. But strategy 101 is, do not be fully dependent on just one source of income.
All right, so Clarisse, you've excellent answers to those questions from the team listening in, and please continue to ask your questions. We'll come back to you again, and just feel free to ask any questions that you want, or to answer any of the questions we have here, and also share your experiences with us. Clarisse, let's go to the question you just talked about in relation to the market and COVID-19. And maybe let's think for the women out there listening in, and the men that are also out there listening in. Men, sorry if I did not acknowledge you in the audience. With COVID-19, what would you say are the most important things that you feel a business entrepreneur, a woman entrepreneur should do at this time when they reflect on their business? And given your experience with working with many other companies, if you could reflect on that question and maybe highlight 4 things women businesses should do at this time.
Okay, so first of all, don't give up. Do whatever it takes to weather this storm. And might require that you get really smart about how you manage your cash flows, how you engage with your teams to explain if they need to maybe take a cut on their salaries. How do you just make sure that you weather this storm? I don't even know how long it's going to last, but I would say don't give up, just think solution. Like I always say, go into solution mode and see ways to just make sure that you think about weathering the storm. And there's a lot of support that's also been put out there, whether it's government coming up with different types of support for businesses, whether it's tax cuts or providing loans at favorable interest rates. Look out for all these things and don't be shy. Sometimes as women, we're so shy about coming off like we're begging, we need something. Just go out there and say you need help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's the second thing I would say. Ask for help, and somebody might point you to the right direction and where to get help from. And the third thing is, do value your team. Value your team and make sure that do what you can to keep this team close and to keep it intact until whenever. I don't know when this will be done, but a lot of people, the first thing they think of is laying off staff, but if you're in this business for the long haul, you will need a team, and if possible, find ways to, you know, hold on to your team and have that dialogue with them and explain the challenges that you're facing. I come with the whole mothering thing that we sometimes tend to do as women, and this is something I had to learn, is being honest with your team when things are tough. You don't need to shelter them from the challenges that you're facing. Just be authentic with them and let them know that, okay, we're going through a tough time and we're all going to take a hit, but we will be fine because, you know, I'm in this. But also being honest with yourself when you need to when you need to let go of some things. But don't be afraid to ask for support. Don't give up, and you do your best to have that team around you, that support system. They're also a support system for you to make it through this storm. Don't ask for help and get the help that you need as well.
Clarisse, I couldn't, you know, you've answered that question with such clarity. You know, value your team and being honest with them. I think it's a very important thing at this time as we think about COVID-19 is valuing your team. And very hard to do when you need to be honest with them, and we need to be able to say, how do we do this? Another thing Clarisse has highlighted is cash flow, and to recognize what is our cash flow at this time and what might it look like. So scenario planning. And many times we talk about scenario planning and think it might not happen. I don't think anybody ever thought of a scenario planning called COVID-19. So if we think about scenario planning for COVID-19 with our cash flow, then we need to ask ourselves, how is that going to look like? And we need to prepare our teams and ourselves as the owners of the businesses for what that looks like with scenario planning. And she also highlighted about asking for help. And I think as women, we need to be able to ask, are we looking for help? Where do you find help? And what are the options for finding help? So I'm happy for you to share as a team that you know, you're able to say, where are you already finding help as a businesswoman? What are you doing in terms of valuing your team? What are the different ways you're engaging with them? And I mean, the question about being honest with yourself. What do you need to be honest with yourself about during this time? And how do you move beyond that? Clarisse, maybe let's move to the question that looks at leadership at this time. Did you have a comment to make on that, Clarisse? Did I cut you off?
No, sorry, a question on leadership?
Yes, I want to ask you, and maybe the question I want to ask you on leadership is, how do you move beyond vision and just begin to lead the company and to grow the company? What do you feel are the things you've acquired as a leader? And what would you tell the women out there as they lead their companies?
First of all, I think we need to be bold enough as women to know that we are also called to lead. I think a lot of times we're a bit shy about that, and it's something that I struggled with, being the youngest on my team at some point, and, you know, having to lead not just women but men as well, and just feeling like I would offend them sometimes by, you know, telling them what to do. But just knowing that, okay, you are called to lead. It's not that you're stepping out of some gender role or something. It's okay. And with that in mind, just learning, you know, different leadership styles, or learning how to communicate effectively with your teams. And it's something that I've invested quite a lot of time in learning how to lead. I mean, for my MBA, it's pretty much something that I focused on at the African Leadership School of Business, and just, you know, trying to figure out ways that I can effectively lead my team. There's lots of different things to do around this, but at the core of it really is, you know, being okay with leading and learning how to lead. You have to invest time in this because, I mean, some people say leaders are born, others say they're made, but people are different as well. You know, how you lead one member of your team is different from another. But just learning how to efficiently communicate and coach your team and grow your team, that's very important. I will say that women are actually very gifted in having empathy. And that's something that's really relevant and critical for you as a leader, how to relate with the other person and put yourself in their shoes and try to understand, okay, if I were them, how would I want to be led? And I think this is something that you can really leverage as women to create strong teams and to just create lasting companies.
Excellent. And to all the women out there, as you know, and I know there are men listening in, but to all the women entrepreneurs, you are a born leader by the very fact that you've entered into business in a world that doesn't necessarily acknowledge women entrepreneurs. So really kudos to you all out there as you continue to lead. I'm going to be winding down in about 5 minutes as we go to the end of the session together. And I'm going to be winding down with a few questions in relation to tactical issues about business and trade specifically. And so to Clarisse, you are the rep for eTrade for the women. And what would you say are the things you want to be able to do around holding this position for women on this part of the region?
Yeah, this is really a great opportunity for me, and I'm so grateful to UNCTAD and Candace and the entire team who have supported us through this journey since September last year when we had the opportunity to get started on all this. And I would say for me, first of all, just creating as many opportunities for dialogue with women to share my journey so far. I'm learning a lot. And I do have some lessons that I can share to save you some time, money, and heartaches. That's one thing that I'm really looking forward to doing. Secondly, just policy advocacy. And this is something that I've proactively engaged with both locally and in other capacities globally, just trying to advocate for various policies that do encourage women to leverage digital technologies for their businesses to grow. And last but not least, really capacity building, just like we're doing for this masterclass, just helping equip women with the skills that they need to thrive digitally. Those are the 3 key things I would say I'm looking forward to doing, and I've been doing, and I'm excited about doing.
All right, and finally, as we wind down, and thank you all of you that we have had very many participants for this group. And as we wind down, I'm just going to ask for one question. What would you tell women? What would you say are your top 3 things to the women, before you leave? If they left here as a woman entrepreneur, what would you tell them? Just your last 3 things.
Believe in yourself, and I say this because we tend not to. You are talented. You are created for a purpose. So believe in yourself. Secondly, live each day in pursuit of that purpose. It comes back to the whys, the 5 whys we're talking about. Ask yourself, why am I here? What things am I passionate about? How can I accomplish the thing that I was put on this earth for? So that's the second thing I would say. Live each day in pursuit of that purpose. And last but not least, support other women. This is something I've really benefited from a lot and could use a lot more. I'm really grateful for all the women on this call who have supported us.
I'm hoping you can share your screen just for in the last session. I'm hoping it doesn't go down, but if you can share them just so they can see you and we say bye together. So as you talk, continue talking and share your screen. Yes.
Sure. Yeah, like I was saying, believe in yourself. You're created for a purpose. Live each day in pursuit of that purpose and support other women. It might take a lot of work, but whether it's your daughters, your sisters, your friends, support them. I'm grateful for Candace and the team that has really walked this journey with us. Monica, we've engaged in different capacities. Just looking out for those sisters out there and supporting them is really critical. Those are the things I would say, and I'm really again grateful for being on this platform and this opportunity to share.
And I think to everybody who's been listening to us, if there's one thing we can take away is that COVID-19 is no excuse for giving up. COVID-19 only gives us the question is how can I redo or rethink my business? Clarisse is an example of someone who's been online. She's been in a platform and she's conversant with online. And for many of you who are coming in and thinking about moving beyond the face-to-face, Clarisse has highlighted a number of things, and allow me to highlight them for us as we end. Number 1, that the talent you already have, there's nothing to fear about online. You already probably have most of the skills if you're already using your mobile phone, the technology is nothing to fear. The question is, can I learn how to leverage it for my business? So I encourage you, if you have not yet leveraging your business online, we as a team together with UNCTAD and Thunderbird and all the other partners here are encouraging us to go online. And let's see how we can leverage our business. Let's see how women entrepreneurs can be seen in the playing field in the global arena. That's what we want to see. We want to see women, when we Google, on the Google, that we actually see African women. And that we are able to see women businesses that move their accounting systems, their supply chain systems, their entire value chain of the business, and that it can be totally online. If you have any questions around these areas, please feel free to raise them with the Ancted team and with myself and any of the team, and we'll be able to answer you on what you need to do to go online. If you feel you've missed out on attending the masterclass because the class is already closed and we will be having the rest of the time in a private session, please register for the next one. We will definitely be having others, and Thunderbird and Ancted will be joining together, and ALU, for all of us to think about how do we ensure that we encourage women online. So just to highlight, to remember that online is nothing to fear. I think the final thing that I want to say is that women lead with a passion, and use that same passion in your business, in your family, in your home, and even as you're balancing all the different skills. I know many of us are having children at home, many of us are homeschooling and running our businesses, many of us are trying to do these things. I think I had kids crying on the phone behind there. And Clarisse said, to remember, we are women, we are not men. And so let's do this as women. Let's not be shy about saying we are women. I think many times as women, we try to want to be the man, but we are women, and women can lead and can be leaders and are leaders and can be able to do this in an excellent way. I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you for everybody who registered for the workshop. I look forward to great private sessions together as we go through eTrade for Women. I want to thank the Ancted team that's been supporting from Geneva, and this is a truly global world. I'm out here in Machakos, Kenya, not even Nairobi, and I'm able to do this. We have Clarisse all out there in Rwanda, Kigali, and a team of amazing people from around the world. So thank you very much. Have an excellent afternoon. Let's do business and let's do it online. Thank you.
Thank you.
Candace, do you need to say anything, or can we close?
Thank you very much for joining. And as for the specific participants of the masterclass, the 15 amazing women that we'll be working with, check your mailbox. You will receive the link, and your calendar as well. We will link to the next session that's going to be private. And please, all of you who are here, also join us Friday for nice policy dialogues with women entrepreneurs and policymakers exchanging ideas about how to make women thrive in the digital economy. Looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much, Monica, for your wonderful, dynamic, interactive, entertaining, educative hosting skills, and for Clarisse, as always, for her caring, enlightening, inspiring sharing of her experience. Looking forward to engage again.
Thank you all. Thank you, women. Asante Sana from Kenya, Machakos.
Bye-bye.